And here we go, back at it.
Here we go. We are back at it today. It is
on a roll.
Absolutely stunning day here in Overland Park, Kansas. The sun is out. There's not a cloud in the sky. It hasn't rained for, grand total of 24 hours. So I'm pumped to be here today. And it is, what is today? May 9th. The year is 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast. This is episode 767.
Yeah, and I'm really being tested by Zig Ziglar's Don't Judge a Day by the Weather because it is gloomy again here.
No way.
Yeah, it was sunny yesterday. It was gloomy, then sunny. Now it's raining again. It's like, I'm trying not to judge a day by the weather.
You can't. Or what the prediction is for the weather, because you never know. Like, I got legit yesterday. I woke up, and I'm, you know what? Beautiful morning for a run. Whip out Wonderground, my trusted, maybe used to be trusted, weather source. Clear skies, nothing on the radar. Dew point, like 50, temp 57. I'm like, stellar. Let's go ahead and knock out the run for the day. Get dressed, head out. 45-minute run. About 22 minutes into the run, exactly at pretty much my turnaround point, giant storm starts to roll in. I'm like, is that lightning? I'm like, yep, that's lightning. Turn around and doing some intervals. Is that rain? Yeah, that's rain. Last 6 minutes was straight threshold trying to get home. I mean, it was like torrential. It wasn't like people like, it was so refreshing to run in the rain.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it wasn't one of those. It was, this is a little sketch. I need to get home as quickly as possible. It was lightning like crazy. The wind was going nuts. It was pouring down rain. So yeah, I didn't have that like refreshed feeling when you get done with the run. I didn't feel primal either. I felt like I was just trying to get save face and got back home. I was like, where the hell did this come from? Look, 15 minutes later, perfect. Not a cloud in the sky, no wind, gorgeous. But I got my run done. But yeah, right now you can't predict anything. You just gotta be flexible and just kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah. So you follow Weather Underground. That they're not nailing it, huh? Well, I heard they got a sketchy past anyway. So
the Weather Underground's got a sketchy past.
Oh yeah, it goes deep.
Yeah, maybe I need to go to like a different resource, because they don't send you updates. Like, I was telling you the other day, like we had those like tornadoes overnight, and sometimes like your phone will send you updates, and that's only if you got like the iPhone weather app. So I'm like, Mike, I don't want to lie awake here waiting for the tornado sirens or be afraid I'm not going to hear them. I need like my phone to go off and be like, hello, take cover. And so I went and re-uploaded like the Apple weather app that like tells you when, and lo and behold, I don't take my phone with me when I run. I don't like it. I just don't. I'm gonna be fine. And of course, I get back home. I get to my phone before I take a shower, and you know what it had done? Alerted me that severe weather was on the way. And I was like, all right, maybe there was a benefit to to having it with me, but still, I'm still not taking it with me. I like to be totally disconnected. Speaking of. And I don't want we won't make this for the topic today. We got too much to talk about swim wides, too many comments to go over. But
yeah,
I was talking with someone the other day that's in the therapy field, and they were talking about running, and they said that and we've talked about this before, but I thought it was really interesting that they were saying that there's MMDR, I think there's like brain spotting. It's a type of therapy that's used to like bring back like traumatic experiences and like go through them, and like brings a lot of feelings up. And she said there was some research that she's like, I'm too dangerous to like be exact, but that the motion of running, like the side to side motion, like in the cadence and the way it makes your body feel, has a very similar response to that.
The side to side running.
Yeah, like you can have not side to side, like because you go right foot, left foot, so there's
the rhythm or the
rhythm of it, yeah. And so she said that like that's why you can have a lot of emotions like pop up while you're running. And I was like, that's so interesting, because like you and I talked about before, like the only time I've ever had like emotions like overcome me, it's never been in the pool, and it sure as hell hasn't been on the bike, but it's always been running. Like, I think I've gotten teary-eyed before in a run. It's like, I don't know if it's like the silence but I thought that was really interesting. And I think also very insightful into why so many people feel so much better after a run, even if we can't really explain it. Like, I can't go through like the research, but hearing that, I was like, that to me, that makes a ton of sense. And why people, I think when they aren't allowed to run, like they have an injury or something, they start to get depressed. And I just think there's a very, like, whether it's unexplainable, but it sounds like it is explainable, or way of like that huge benefit that running has on just our mental health and feelings in general.
Oh, okay. I thought when you said side to side, I was getting happy there because I've been on the beach doing like those bear crawls, back and forth shuttles. I've been trying some weird shit, man. That grounding. Like, what's that?
Just the ground, I think. Yeah, but I'm sure what you're doing is the same thing.
Oh, it's taking me back to that childhood, man. I'm not saying that was always peaches and cream either, but it's nice. It's nice.
Love it, man. That's awesome.
But yeah, that running, man.
Seriously, it does for you.
Speaking of, we're going into swimming now. So just a quick, because I said I was going to try and get in the water every day. I missed one day already, but I got in yesterday.
Hey, at least you're honest about it, man.
Yeah, and I tried the wetsuit the first day, and then yesterday I have one of those shorty swim run suits.
Oh, yeah.
I got in that, and the water's about mid-60s, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
A little chilly, but I definitely didn't need the full wetsuit yesterday, even though back in the day I would have been like, through June in a full wetsuit. But so I got in with that thing yesterday, and it worked out pretty good, although my swimming is just awful right now. I'm just out of shape, man. It's just crazy. But when I got out, I don't know if you ever wore one of those things. I legit could not get out of it. I was panicking. It's got the short sleeves. There was something about, like, I had nothing to grab, and my shoulder range is kind of weird right now anyway.
It's like your little black dress.
I was stressing, dude.
Zipping it on, it'll help zipping it off.
Exactly. I was about ready to start walking on the road to see if I could find some neighbors. I mean, it was kind of freaking me out. So I think from now on, it's just floaty shorts, no top. Let's go.
Yeah, I would say I fully support going topless. Just go with the floaty pants. That's
I mean,
somebody. I would have paid, I don't know, a solid $20 or $50 probably.
Just to have a hidden camera on that, because I was in the mirror, like, trying to figure it out. I was like, I could not grab anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely pay money to see you, like, walking down like one of your roads with that stuck on, trying to find someone the answer to help you get it off, and the look on their face.
Oh God.
Yeah, right. But you know what? You didn't have to go there. But we're going here today. We'll get into our swim topic today, but it's your first time tuning in today. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Time is valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also race previews. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. Mike and I also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. He and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes in the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back toward championships, and everyone in between from all the globe. We use the feedback loop we have with them, and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion today. We also like to utilize our Facebook group, as proven the last podcast and this podcast. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, solid resource. In a sport that's oftentimes way too complicated and way too confusing, it is a solid space to get actionable information to improve all things endurance sports. We have a lot of awesome people in there willing to lend a hand and offer their experiences and advice. We go in there about once every month or so, and I take the pulse of the community, do a bit of a Q&A like we are today and earlier this week. But that is it. We have no sponsors. We have no ads. But we are upfront about our agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Let's do it, man. Let's see if we can keep them happy and healthy.
We'll do our best. And before we even get into that, I first want to lay all blame at the foot of whoever designed Facebook, because, we went through a lot of these swim questions on Tuesday. And I just look back again, there's 64. And I know we didn't get through probably 20. And so if we don't get to your question, It's not because we don't want to. It's not because we don't love you. It's because whatever Facebook's algorithm is makes it like searching for a fucking needle in a haystack to find the comments in chronological order. It's got like, top contributor comments, top comments, relevant comments, all comments, comments by people made on Tuesdays, comments by people's made, with red hair on a Friday, comments people that are married, comments from people who rarely repost. I'm like, I don't freaking have time for that. So what we're doing today, I'm scrolling down to the very bottom because as you pointed out so perfectly, when we go through these, a lot of times the people that post last, we don't necessarily get to them. So it's kind of like what we're doing today is what they did back in the day when every once in a while your teacher would say, all right, we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order. And we're going to start with the Z's, right? Because, poor, Amy Zickerman's always stuck getting up, going last because her last name starts with a Z. But today.
Zickerman. You know Amy Zickerman?
I don't know an Amy Zickerman.
Oh, we had one in my class.
I don't know Kim Lesky either. One of them. Before we go into that today, after you guys know as much as I love talking about swimming. It is a passion for me. It was something I feel like I was put on this earth to do. Seeing so many comments is just a reminder of how frustrating it can be, but how for you, the athlete, and seeing 64 comments is just kind of relevant to that. So either later today or Friday, we are going to post in the Crushing Iron Facebook group. We'll put it on Instagram. And if you don't have those, you can send an email to operations@c26triathlon.com for this info. But I'm going to do a C26 online swim school. That's going to start June 1st through August 31st. Yes, you can improve your swim just online. We're going to offer plenty of opportunities. It is absolutely for everyone, no matter what speed you are, whether you're trying to go from 130s to 105s, or whether you're trying to go from 230s to 2 minutes. We're going to go through correct stroke and technique, try to get you to swim fast, but also efficiently and effectively. And I'll drop a few testimonials from swimmers that some of the swimmers that we've had that improved so much just from online correct swim coaching. And just going to keep it simple with, and again, it's just going to run from June 1st to it's going to run from June 1st to August 31st. I'm just going to really offer 3 tiers. Tier 1 is just going to be weekly swim training provided in Training Peaks. So very structured swim training, which I guess from June 1st to August 31st will end up being about 13 to 14 weeks. The price, that'll be $175. Then you got tier 2, it's going to be $225. And in that, you're going to also get weekly swim training, but you're also going to get monthly Zoom calls. And then the last tier is tier 3. For that 14 weeks, it's going to be $375, and you're going to get the same weekly swim training, the monthly Zoom calls, but you're also going to get 2 videos, some analysis at the beginning, at the end. And then attach that flyer, have a Google form, you get your name, email address, your longest race in the next 90 days. That way I know what kind of programming to give you. I'm not going to give you, 4,000 yards if you're, trying to get better at a sprint. Then also your average pace. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be, again, posted on the Crushing Iron Facebook, put it on Instagram. If you don't have any of those, which if you don't, kudos to you, you should probably get a discount, is you can email summer@operations@c26triathlon.com so you can send you that info. But Chad, between now and June and May 31st to sign up. So we'll do that and get people better at swimming, because you know what? I think it's the most frustrating part for people, and the fact that it is the first part of the race, I think makes it even harder.
Yeah, I might sign up for that, man.
Good, man. Anyway, step 1, how to get out of your super tight swim run outfit.
Yeah. But I am taking a page out of my Louisville swim book. I'm just trying to get in there a lot right now. I'm not, and it's good because it's open water. Even though I don't know if there's a question about this, but a lot of people ask how to swim in open water and kind of keep integrity of workouts and stuff like that. So
I'm gonna go and answer that, because I think it's a great question. And we do get that a lot. I just had one of our coaches who took on an athlete that only wants to swim in open water. And, what I would tell most people is, one, first and foremost, like if that's your only option, it's your only option. If you've got an option for both, then maybe just swim open water once a week, and then, the rest need to be in the pool. Because even the best open water swimmers in the world swim in the pool the majority of the time. Having said that, if you have access to water and you can do it a lot, really kind of choose and triage what you think your area of focus needs to be. If you're just looking for more comfort in the water, then sometimes just swimming steady really kind of takes care of that, because you're just looking for comfort and you're just looking for exposure. Exposure to me is a huge thing. The more you can expose yourself to something, the more comfortable you get. It's like walking into a crowded room of strangers. Like, you go to the very, very first time, you're super nervous. You don't know anybody. You don't know what it's going to be like. And like the anxiety increases just in the moments like leading up to it. And then you go and you're like, you know what, that wasn't that bad. And the next time you might still be a little bit anxious, but now you know what to expect. Now you know maybe who to stay away from. Don't get cornered by, so-and-so. And now you know kind of like where your safe spaces are. Like, I know Jimmy and Bill and Sally, that's kind of my comfort group. Let me make sure I gravitate towards them so I can stay in that space. And it might not be like totally comfortable, but it's now a little more comfortable. And then you go the next time, you're like, all right, this isn't so bad at all. So it's very similar. It's all about exposure. Now, if you have comfort in open water, then you can kind of either do one of two things in terms of structuring your swim workout. One is just stroke based, which is my favorite, because it helps me kind of stay on point and actually stay on rhythm. Is I'll just do like 50, anywhere between 50 to 100 stroke segments. So I might do 50 strokes easy, 50 strokes hard, 60 strokes easy, 60 strokes hard, and then build my way up, then build my way back down. Be creative for that. It doesn't need to be rocket science. If you're a person who likes to like pre-build your workouts, open water is actually pretty advantageous. You can just put in like go into Training Peaks and build 10 minutes easy, and then do like, put in there 10 2-minute efforts of whatever race pace or zone 3 with 100-minute easy swimming, and your watch will just buzz. So every time it buzzes, you know to change. You don't have to look at your watch or look at anything, and then be done. So there's a lot of great things you can do, but I think the most important thing is to, one, know your purpose before you get there. Like that was, when we used to swim there 3 days a week, we'd be out there for an hour and 15 minutes and probably swimming an hour of that time. And then we'd see like another group that would come and they'd be out there for an hour and 15 and they probably swam 15 minutes. It was a lot of floating, a lot of hanging out, a lot of time. Like, be purposeful with it, because everybody complains about how hard it is to take time to go swim, because it does. I get it. And you're totally right. So if you're going to go, make the most out of your time and don't noodle around, right, and float there and then tread water every 5 minutes and look around. Like, have a purpose before you go and be excited about it. I think that's just that's a huge piece for it.
Yeah. No, that's great, man. That's the beauty. I mean, actually, I don't know. We're having a little mini swim camp next weekend, and I'm just going to throw it out there in case anybody kind of lives around the Madison, Wisconsin area. We've got perfect lake with all these islands we can grab, and you can do open water in real safe environment. It's beautiful. So shoot me an email, crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you're interested, I'll give you more info on that. But yeah, that's it, man. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It just feels good to be in the water, and
get that exposure and see what you may need to work on in the pool too. I mean, to me, that's like another thing that people just totally like gloss over, right? Is they get out in open water and they might be swimming to like, all right, I want to swim to this. And they realize that they swim totally crooked. Yeah. All right, well, take that, right? And then make sure that you work on that the next time in the pool. Don't just take, how does it, I don't know how to swim. This is like one of the very first things you and I both go over at every single swim camp or tri camp, is swimming straight is critical, because it doesn't matter how much faster we make you. If it just makes you go faster in the wrong direction, we're actually making you go slower, because you have that much more swimming to do. So you got to swim straight, or you realize that your legs are sinking, or that, one arm gets more tightness. But so, yeah, like when you get out there, recognize that when you go back to the pool, know how you need to fix and what you need to fix. Just don't, go back and repeat your mistakes and repeat your flaws. Address them and be focused about it.
Yeah. It's funny because when I get the open water thing, I think obviously it is a little more, it's just a different feeling, and it does take a little bit more to feel comfortable in there, I think. And I do notice that when I'm not in great shape and I get out there swimming, it's not panic, but it's a little bit of like, low key stress, at times, because you are in the open water. And I find what happens with me is I start, my dominant hand starts taking over again, and I start going straight right. So yeah, I think it's it is something to be thinking about in the pool, but if you can get comfortable with it, and it is all, I mean, man, it's so much to me about just being relaxed. And, 65 isn't bad, but it's still a little chilly if you're not used to it.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah. And what I noticed is, that used to be like, oh my God, it's freezing. And you get like real tense about it, but now it's just like relaxing through it and it feels awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's that perfect temp where, I swear we'll get into the questions. To me, it's a perfect temp because you don't get warm throughout. You stay a little chilled the entire time. Whereas like to me, if it's 70, by the time I'm done with 30 minutes, I'm frying. And anything over that, you're frying out of the gate. Where 65, it almost kind of like keeps like that chill the whole time. So it is a perfect temp.
Yeah, it makes you work a little too to warm up.
Exactly. Yeah. So first question from Vicky Ellis Tate. I have the skinniest wrists and fingers. It's like paddling a canoe with a broomstick. How do I grip the water? Vicky, I'm sorry to hear that I'm sorry, but the first thing I thought of was the Tiny Hands Seinfeld episode. And if you haven't seen that, you should go watch it. But so that's a great question. So, because I think a lot of athletes, when they think of feeling of the water, everyone goes strictly to their fingers, right to their hands. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but where you should feel the water is on your forearm. So like, we have a lot of our athletes do fist drill because it takes away that, because I think sometimes those, like we have our, the high sensory, like your toes and your fingers, your ears, right? These are all high sensory, places in our body. And a lot of times it can be overstimulating into where that's all you should feel. And what I'm thinking about is feeling there. So one of the reasons I love doing fist drill so much as part of like a preset is do something like 20 fist drill, 25 swim, is that when you remove that sensation of your hand and you're forced to only feel, right? Because if you close your hands, right, and you just got your fists, you don't feel anything like, oh, I had the best feel in my knuckles today. No one ever says that. It's all about your hands, right? So when you close those, right, no matter how skinny they are, no matter how skinny your fingers or your wrist are, you then focus on what it's like to feel your forearm, because that is where, like, if you no matter the length of your hand, length of your forearm, if you lay your arm out flat and you go from elbow to wrist, your forearm is 2 to 3 times the length of your hand. That is where you get your propulsion from. Is your forearm. That's why when they design like these high-end wetsuits, they put special fabric and texture and textile on your forearm because it's where you grip the water. So feeling isn't about wrist and fingers, it's about forearm. So actually the more you can remove that feeling, right, it's better. And the way you think about it is the purpose of your hand to me is almost irrelevant. To me it's also, I call your wrist your steering wheel. Because if you can use your wrist to steer your arm in the way it needs to go, then that's actually going to focus and kind of like, or hyper focus the getting your arm early and vertical. Because what happens a lot of time is actually your hand is an impediment to progress when it comes to early vertical form, because you start to try to feel it with your hand. And if you feel it with your hand, you actually let it hover too far out in front of you. One of the very first things that I noticed and learned about swimming, this is back in, good God, 2001. I was working at a triathlon store, and the guy that owned the store, his name is Dan Powell. His dad was the Western Kentucky collegiate swim coach for like 40 years. They renamed the aquatic center after him, and Dan was like an Olympic trials guy. And he had an endless pool in there. He did swim analysis. He did one. I was standing there with an Olympian, and he was noticing. So we took video from the front that this, again, an Olympian gold medalist was in there, would take her hand in and she would lift it up facing the motor in the front, trying to find the water. Because sometimes when you don't have a good feel for the water anymore and you're trying to re-find it again, you search for it with your hand, and you search for it by leaving it out front. And if you leave it out front for too long, then your body starts to sink and you lose momentum. But what you should do is try to get your hand facing backwards as quickly as possible to get your forearm in the right spot. So it really doesn't matter how big your hands are, how small your hands are. Listen, the size of your hands doesn't mean anything about your stroke. And it just sometimes, again, focusing on it too much actually can remove the area you're trying to actually feel. Because again, your hands don't do that much work. They do some towards the end, but your forearm is what does the most work. So fist row is a great thing to do. Anything you can do to, like, again, sculling is another great way with the pull buoy. Again, it's trying to find that pressure on the water. I'm having, like, there's a huge, like, convention or something here, and I'm like, when I'm talking about something, I always use my hands. And these people are walking by like I'm a nut job. But anyway, that is exactly what you should remove. Is so for your, I would say, remove the wrist and fingers and foot. That's why also paddles is great, because it removes the feel of the hands, but it maintains the feeling of what pressure is supposed to feel like and how to get to, like, your arm being early and vertical.
Wow, that just opened up a whole understanding for me in a weird way, because you think about, we use our hands our whole lives to touch and feel things. So it's easy. There's probably a lot more nerve sensors there for the touch and the feel. And we don't do that with our forearm. When's the last time you kind of went up to and so grab, other than putting somebody in a headlock or something? You know, you don't really touch things with your forearm. So you're probably just like numb to it in a weird way. And I think that maybe if you swim your whole life and you're thinking about that concept and you're trying to feel with your forearm, that's why it's probably easier for a lot of, people who swam their whole life. So I think it's repetition, It's probably because it comes and goes with me. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But that's just the feel on the forearm,
Yeah, and it's counterintuitive, right? Like to what what you think it might be. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna feel it in your hands. But again, to me, it's not about, if you're going to look at your forearm, right, the first place to me you should feel it is like maybe an inch above your wrist and an inch below where you should feel it. Because if you can feel it there, then it's just going to cascade down as your fingertips point to the bottom, and then it's going to kind of just completely flood and take over your forearm. If that visual makes sense. But that's where you should feel it. Again, not in your wrist. You and I point this out, like when we watch people some of these swim camps, I can tell by it's a lot like when I used to coach tennis. I can tell on their backswing if it's going to be a good shot. Like once the ball hits the racket string, I say great shot before it even lands. Same thing with swimming. If I can see a person's arm out of the water and where their wrist is, if it's bent, if it's totally straight up, if it's going to be a good stroke or not. And again, so I think people put way too much focus on the hand, not up on the wrist and the forearm. Ryan Wallace, timing. Sometimes I feel like I'm turning my head too late to breathe and I'm in between strokes. Sometimes I feel like if I think about coordinating my kick to my pull, that I get lost like a gymnast getting the twisties. I'm not terribly slow, so should I just turn off my brain and swim? I just want that easy, efficient swim. I mean, step one is something that Mike always says is relax, and we talked about this on Tuesday too. It's like we can usually see people thinking when they're swimming. And a lot of times you're just thinking yourself slow. Now, yes, can you turn your head too late? 100%. And that does throw off coordination. Because to me, swimming is all about rhythm, which is why when you see people thinking through their swim stroke, there is no rhythm, right? It's not fluid. It's choppy. And choppy, either removes momentum, stops momentum, or enables you to not have any momentum. Whereas if it's fluid, it's all momentum and it's all moving forward. Now, I would, again, coordinating a kick is important, but it should be like one of the very, very last things that people do. Fix the front of your stroke first. And especially being late to breathe, because to me, being late to breathe isn't just about your stroke. Because if you think about it, and this is hard to kind of talk through, but I'm going to do my best to do it. It'd be like, this is, again, like when you think about like, what can you teach me about swimming on a Zoom call? This is like something that we'll show and we do in person at our camps is like, when you turn to breathe, a lot of people talk about, why they pause and have like dead spots in their stroke. Remember, swimming is about momentum, right? So when you think about you're moving high in the water, you're going fast. Well, if you breathe late, you still want to be able to consume the same amount of oxygen as breathing earlier on time. So what happens is if your left arm, you're breathing the right, your left arm is hanging out front, then what you're going to likely do is you're going to hang that left arm back because guess what? You still need oxygen. instead of breathing on time, not early, but on time. That way your stroke is part of your, excuse me, you're taking a breath, right? Your position of your head is now part of and fits into your cycle of your stroke. And it fits there seamlessly. It is neither rushed nor elongated, right? And so, because what happens is people, if it's rushed, you don't get enough oxygen, right? So if you breathe late and you want to keep going with your stroke, you don't get enough oxygen, and you wonder why you go like hyperventilating after 100 meters. Same thing goes if you breathe too late, but you want to elongate. That's still the same amount of breath as you did when you had the correct timing of your breath. Is you hover, like you leave your left arm out because you want to get oxygen. And if you're leaving your left arm out, you're now doing nothing because your other arm's out of the water. So now you're dead in the water and breathing. So you start over again. So you're impeding progress. You're getting oxygen, yes, but you're having to work harder to get back up to maintain speed. So yeah, timing of breath is crucial, and also how you breathe is crucial. We always joke, but it's so true. It's like most triathletes like to check the weather when they breathe. They rotate all the way over, both eyes, forehead, facing the sky, as if there's more oxygen up there. There's not. And it makes the rest of your body sink. There's two great cues you can use to breathe correctly. One is to always practice having one goggle in the water, right, while you breathe. The other is either one of two things, or it makes the most sense to you, is to point your forehead down or to pull your chin up. Those two cues alone have made like a lot of light bulbs come off in the swimmers you work with to kind of keep your head position in tow. Because again, if you lift your forehead way too up, you're going to sink. If you lift your head too late, you're going to sink. If you pause, you're going to sink. So people, really underestimate the importance of your head position and then how the timing comes when you breathe. Because that all, again, it's all a cascade effect, and how it comes. How it's, you think about it this way is like, the straightest, most fluid shell. If you think of a pinball machine, right, is the most fluid way is for you to drop out of the top and for nothing to be in its way, and for it to fall perfectly straight forward down into that hole at the bottom. Whereas most people have so many different levers and mechanisms in its way. As soon as it goes off course, it's now taking longer and having more obstacles getting in its way, and that's why it looks so disjointed. It goes, rolls over here or under this, wheel, then it comes over here to this lever, gets bounced over here. Everything has a cause and effect. That's why you want things to be as relaxed and as fluid as possible.
Boy, I did not have pinball machine on my bingo card analogy. So, I mean, you brought up a good point. I just want to sort of give my perspective on that. When you reach with your left hand and you pause, I mean, you don't want pausing, right? So when you think about it, we take 100,000 breaths a day. I don't know, 1,000 breaths a day, 10, whatever. But we don't think about any of them. So I think that's the goal, right? Is just to be in the swim stroke rhythm and let the breathing just sort of happen. Because I think the minute you start thinking about breathing, you're in trouble. It's just like when I'm swimming my best, I'm just, it's just in the flow of it or whatever. And I think a good solid stroke with a good solid rhythm will just sort of help you breathe normally. Because you blow out. I mean, the one thing I do consciously think of is sometimes is blowing out under the water just to make sure. But if you got that going on, and then you turn your head just a little bit, it's just going to be a natural breath rather than like some big, try and suck in 100 pounds of oxygen every time. You know what I mean? It's just like a natural breathing motion. I mean, I just think that that's such a huge part of swimming, right? Because we all are a little bit more tense because we're literally human out of land, fish in the water, whatever. And we get a little uncomfortable with it. But yeah, the points about, I mean, that really helped me. I mean, when you told me that years ago, was keeping one goggle in and just kind of keeping that head a little bit more fluid and contained instead of spazzing out. Because the minute you like throw your head back, the whole body, the other side of your body goes underwater and everything like that. But it's just that's just it, man. As I think you just want to really make breathing feel as natural as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, I guess the next evolution of that is when you can see people who sight as a part of their stroke. Because everything you do should be a part of your stroke, not a separate action. anytime there's a separate action, there's a pause and the transition or the cause and effect from that opposite action. So if you have a late breath, there's a cause and effect to that late breath, right? Where it's hanging out and there's a pause. Again, you don't want to pause. Same thing goes with sighting. A lot of people they pause when they sight. You want it to be the best sighters, like it looks like if there's part of their stroke. Like period. It just looks fluid but fluid again, like it looks efficient and it looks easy and it looks effortless, right? It doesn't look disjointed. So like that's like also the evolution of, and a good example of making something a part of your stroke, not a separate action in addition to your stroke.
Correct. Yeah.
Next question. How much of a factor is consistent weight training to increasing speed in the water? Also, can you place a number on what percentage of your pool training should be using a pool buoy? Thank you. I'll just tell you right now that consistent weight training isn't going to increase your speed in the water. Now, knowing what you're doing in the water and doing hard sets, that's going to make you fast in the water. And I'm sure there are significantly stronger people than me, in the weight room, but I'm pretty sure I could beat most of them at 25 or 50, like in terms of speed. It's about there's a whole different plus. Like if you think about what you do in the gym, like how many, again, going back to what I said to me, how many reps that you do in the gym or how many reps you do, even in like, a 50, you might get 30 reps in. It's all lungs and speed and being anaerobic, and doing it efficiently, having a good turnover. And it's the next piece. This is a tricky one for me. Can you place a number on what percentage of your pool training could be using a pool buoy? Thank you. More than you think, but probably less than you want me to say. It's probably the amount I'm comfortable saying. If I'm being totally 100% honest, I think some of my best swim times ever have been with 95% pool buoy work. And that's just a fact. Now I have a good stroke. But I also think people don't use it enough because they consider it cheating, but it allows you to have a much longer, stronger, and better stroke. And I also do think it makes it more purposeful and applicable to open water swimming. It's just so much, right? It also tells you a lot about yourself. But or floaty pants is a good happy medium from that. If you still want the feel of like the timing with your legs, then do that. But again, it to me, it's also a lot about, what is your, if your number one thing is just really crappy body positioning and you stick with the pool buoy, then if your race is not wetsuit legal, then you're gonna have a problem. So you have to incorporate some, like you can't use as a way to just not address your flaws. It should be addressed to improve something, accentuate something, or get better at something, not just because I suck at this one thing. Right. Mm-hmm. It'd be like if you suck at going up hills, then, get off your trainer and go do hills on your bike, same thing with running. All right. So, you can probably use it more than you think, maybe not as much as you want. But again, it's also very based on like, someone has like great body positioning, but a really slow turnover and is just looks honestly like what I call aquatically weak. They should be using the pool buoy a ton. They don't need any help with body position. They need help being stronger. It also doesn't mean going to the gym twice a week for 30 minutes and doing pull-ups. It means being in the water and getting stronger. Paddles, buoy, paddle bands, paddles only, buoy, sprints even, just a lot of things you can do to do that. So that's, again, it's very specific to the individual, what they need to work on, and should be used to, again, inform you of something, how to improve something, not to just do it just to do it, which again is what I think a lot of triathletes get in trouble with anyway.
Yeah, I totally understand this question because especially now getting back into it, I just feel, I feel like I'm weak swimming wise. And the natural inclination is to be, well, I need to strengthen up my lats or whatever. But it comes back, and I just think that weight training, or for me, I like doing push-ups. And I think I've told this story, but the girl from Boost Fitness told me, she was a Olympian qualifier or something like that. I don't know if you remember her. Yeah. So she told me that push-ups are the most underrated thing for swimming. And I was really happy to hear that because I always used to do that. But I think for me, it's mainly because it helps my core and it helps me think about my body position and stuff like that. And it's like a supplement more than the main course for swimming. Because you're going to see a lot of jack dudes at the gym that can't even probably swim 25 yards, but they're super strong. But so I get it. And then pull buoy, man, I'm the same way. I do it a lot, and I think I use it as a crutch a little bit too much, but I typically, especially doing Wisconsin, it's a wetsuit kind of simulator. So for me, it just makes, I don't want to say swimming easier, but it does. It makes me enjoy it more a lot, And I know what's that guy that you follow, the swim coach?
That's so funny you're about to say, because that was exactly what I thought. Joe Filial.
Yeah, he talks about swim with it all the time, doesn't he? Or
No, he and Brett Sutton both. Like they say, maybe we can dig that out. I think it was one of the very first. Was that our first podcast?
Swimming with the pull buoy? Yeah, it was. I don't even know if it ever got posted.
I don't think it did. Like this is freaking like 11
years ago. 15 minutes of.
David did it at your house over in East Nashville.
Yeah.
What are we doing? This is really good, awkward. But no, like he had this list of like 10 things to become a better swimmer. It was use the pull buoy, because if it makes you swim more, then you're better at swimming. And again, like I think I think we get stuck, right? Once we get there, then we have a hard time removing it. But if it gets you to the pool and gets you to do it more often, then that's a general like positive thing, right? And again, like that's a huge piece for so many. It's just, if I can just get you to me, the pool buoy is the shoelaces of running. If I can just get you to tie your shoelaces, you're going to go for a run. It's just getting your shoes on. If you get your tennis shoes, if you get your run shoes on, you're going for a run. Right? 90% of the time. It's all about getting your shoes on. That is the same thing. The pool buoy to me is the shoelaces of swimming. Just get there and use a pool buoy for a little bit and see what happens. You get a little confidence. Oh, this isn't that bad. Oh, I felt this. Oh, I'm here. Might as well do this. Like, and to me, like, that's a lot of times what I'll do, honestly, is I will do like, maybe 4 or 5, 4 to 5 500s pull with paddles, because I love it. I'm great at it. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel like I'm good to be good open water. And then what I do after that is then I'll put in like, 10 to 20 50s all out, which I don't like doing, which sucks, right? Because a lot of psychological people like, I'm already here. I've already got in some good swimming and I feel pretty good now. And I got my feel for the water. Let's add this in. And that's, again, like it's kind of like a psychological thing with athletes too. And that's why I like to add that in. It's kind of like, again, it's like, to me, it's like the pool buoy is like the free t-shirt with registration. People do anything for a free t-shirt. You put a little pool buoy at the end, right? Like a lot of times, and I'm sure you get a lot of texts like, hey, so am I reading this right? No pool buoy today?
Oh,
and you're like, yeah. No, they're like, ooh, I think I'm busy. But if it's like, 10 200s pull, they're like, can't wait to go to the pool today. So it's both psychological, physical, and what you can get from it. But again, like, to me, half the battle is getting to the pool and getting work done. And then you need to progress to getting like the right work done. And then, removing the pool buoy when it makes sense.
Yeah. Cause the stronger you get and more confident you get, the more you're apt to try those things like 50s all out. You know what I mean? It's just, I think that comes naturally with the program, but you're right. I think the bottom line is just getting there and swimming a lot, period.
Let's see. Next question. Eric, how much does just plain old genetics play into good swimming? Seems like the tall, thin people with long arms have an advantage. They have an advantage if they know how to use those levers, right? Because swimming is all about levers. Another word I like to use a lot is levers and leverage. That's what it all is, right? But at the same time, like, you can look down the history of the best swimmers, and some of the best swimmers are short and stocky. Like, I'm not the best swimmer ever, for sure, but I am definitely not built like a swimmer. Average, I'm 6 foot tall. I've got, I wouldn't even say that I have long arms. I'm just your normal dude. but I learned how to swim the best way for me. And I think that's another thing that I think doesn't talk about enough is just knowing your morphology. And like, if you have short arms, stop acting like you're Michael Phelps. And if you got Michael Phelps arms, start back, we call them, it's like, Phelps arms or T-Rex arms. Figure out who you are and own what you are and use that to the best of its ability. It's not about genetics. It's about using your genetics to the best of your ability. So if you're a shorter person with, short arms, it's gonna be all about high, not high turnover, not as like out of control, but you're gonna have to utilize that to the best of your abilities. Same thing goes for if you're a long arm swimmer. Don't waste your energy doing high cadence all the time. Use the goods God gave you for good. So yeah, I mean, does it have some effect? Yeah, but I mean, I see plenty of tall swimmers who sink towards the bottom because think about it, they've got more to keep afloat. So there's positives and negatives to both. It's just, again, it's about how you choose to use it.
Wow. That's so interesting because I think a lot of people try to emulate Phelps, including myself. Like I'm real long and I try to get real long, and I feel like that lever piece you were just talking about, I get a little bit out of whack on my levering. Like I think I have a, stronger or longer lever than I do, and I don't know. So it is about kind of finding, where you are in between the T-Rex and the Phelps type things, and really owning your optimal stroke.
Yeah, I mean it really is. Like there's, the more we talk about this, the more questions you go through. Like it's obvious why it's so frustrating, because it's so technical and we're built so differently. It's not like, you have you're 6'5" and I'm, 6 foot. Well, in cycling, it's easy, right? We choose different bike sizes. We choose different crank lengths. We pedal, right? Like that's it. It's that simple. Swimming isn't that way, right? So it's like you just gotta kind of know what you're good at and what makes you who you are. And to me, I think that goes with all sports. I mean, that's something that we're trying to instill in Hayden, and because he's taller than pretty much all the kids that he plays hockey with or baseball with. And so he's never going, more than likely, I don't like saying the word never, but he's never going to be the fastest. He's just not. But he can be the strongest and the hardest working and the most physical. And, he can use his head. Like he can have really good hockey IQ. Like you just kind of know what you got, and you don't have to be, someone that you're not. Right. And so I think it's best to kind of emulate the person that you want to be given what you have, not spend so much time trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. And I think you can do that without using as an excuse or preventing someone from being what they want to be. It's, we only get to where we want to go by feeling progress. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people just bang their head against the wall with swimming, trying to be and swim like someone that they're not. And that's why, again, we talked about this on Tuesday is, when you incorporate things, it should show you what to feel and how to feel it, not just a separate drill to do. And that's how you kind of figure out things within your own stroke, is to kind of highlight that. Jeff Tara, what are the best devices to use at my pool to film myself? I've never used as a GoPro, but could invest in something that works for others and can mount on a pool wall. Yeah, great question. So, and this is a question I'm sure we'll get for people that do like the swim analysis for swim school, is GoPro is great, but even I don't have this trust in general for devices, but a lot of people that I do some analysis for just use their iPhone. They have that kind of, they put like an Otter, like a waterproof case around it. And some of them even say they're waterproof in general, even without the case, but I just don't believe. I'm sure it's true, but I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around that. But use that. The biggest thing though, with mounting it to the wall is, and this is like a thing that I've done hundreds of swim analysis, is the most common thing I see is that athletes video too close to themselves. Like if you're going to mount on the wall on the side view, then you have to be at least one lane over, because you can always zoom in but you and find out, and get closer. But it's, a lot of times if you get too close to it, if I zoom out, I'm still only going to get your torso. So just make sure it's at a far enough point away. There's a lot of devices, like I've seen a lot of people make like PVC pipes. You can wrap it around. The best view period is the front view. You can see if you're crossing over, see how early your forearm gets, kind of the motion, and where you're, again, going back to levers like shoulder, elbow, wrist. And then also from the side view shows you a lot too, from body positioning and where you're losing momentum and obviously your breathing. Point of view outside the pool tells me nothing. It just shows me, like, how your back muscles look. So it's all about in water. So again, like, there's a lot of different things to use, but you gotta make sure you give plenty of view and make sure it's clear water. Like, you get some videos and it's like somebody swimming in a lake. Like, I'm like, I can't even see you right now. Have the lifeguards test the chemicals.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. But
yeah, not much.
I love watching those videos of when they come out of the murk.
it's exactly right.
Yeah,
it's like the old Gator Boys videos. April Kramer, swim school gave me a confidence boost that's hard to come by, and I can't even put a price on it. I'm trying to find some similar experiences to keep my momentum going. I don't want to get myself into a situation where I'm robbed of my newly found confidence. I'm still on shaky ground, but I do want to learn and continue to push myself. Recommendations. Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately like the one of the hardest pieces of the swim piece, right? Is you get it right. It does. It takes effort to stay engaged in the improvement that you're seeing, because again, you can't just do it at home, right? And you don't have somebody watching over you, right? So, I think, the best thing you could do is be to do something like Mike's got going on this next weekend. Go and try to get in like just more exposure with somebody watching you at, is a great way to do it. Because again, it always helps to have eyes, looking down on you and doing it. But also, like, just having the right kind of swim workouts provided is another great thing, because it keeps you focused. When I look at most programs, like with their swimming, it's like I'm like, what am I even doing today? And like, and I'm just repeating it. To me, it's like, it should be titled 2100 zone 2 parentheses in repeating bad habits, or not thinking about my form, and to me, that's wasting time. So it should be specific, right, into what you're doing. It should connect. It should make sense. You should feel that. If you don't feel anything, you should try something different. So, I mean, that's really my only recommendation is to do that. But yeah, I mean, to me, momentum, and like when you find somebody, and you're the same way. I mean, you're a great example. When you find, like, you've got a feel for the water, again, go back to the pool buoy. Like, you kind of want to keep going back, because like once you get a good feel for it, you know what it's like, and you don't want to lose that feeling. Which is why it can be so frustrating, like your pool shuts down for 2 weeks, or you're going on vacation. Like, I'm going to lose my feel for the water. Like, it is. If it's hard for you to get, it's the easiest to lose. You lose it so quick. I mean, it takes me at least a full week or two to get feel back for the water if I've had time off.
Yeah.
And that's for a lifelong swimmer, and so it's keeping that feel, but then also staying engaged, right? And knowing what you need to improve on and getting better. But it's not, again, and that's why, again, swimming's so hard, is that you don't see yourself doing it. A lot of programs and workouts don't have any design, outside of the zone 2, zone 3, zone 4 aerobic. It doesn't, be like if I was going to schedule you for a run, I would just say something like zone 2, today is zone 2 aerobic outside. You're like, okay, am I on my bike? Am I running? What's the point? Like, why is the duration? You have to think something that's going to keep you engaged. If you don't stay engaged, then you do what swimming is famous for, which is the book analogy I always use. If you're not focused and present, all of a sudden you pop your head up and you're 6 pages further, and you're like, I have no idea what I just read. And you have to go back and do it all over again, right? Watching Netflix, and you get distracted, and you start texting your buddies. 10 minutes go by, and you're like, oh shit, what happened? And you got to rewind, right? So again, you don't want to enforce, because to me, that's why swimming is so important, to be purposeful with it when you go to the pool. Is it's not just about, in enforcing bad habits, it's wasting your most precious time. Because swimming is your most precious time. It's the most expensive time that you have, because it takes the most effort to get to the pool, and it takes the most amount of time and return on investment from the time spent to get there and the time spent to come home than any of the other two sports. So you got to have something to focus on and something to kind of keep you engaged in what you need to be engaged in.
Man, we've been talking a lot about this feel for the water, and it kind of sent me off in a different direction a little bit, but it's the same thing. I mean, the best way to get it is to swim often, like we talked about, frequently, I think. I mean, especially for, you said 2 weeks it takes you and you swam your whole life. For a guy like me, that might take a month, but the more I do it, the more I'm starting to get that feeling. I think it's just everything, man. No matter what you do, if you write every day, you're going to have a better feel for writing. And it's funny, April, I work with her, and she's been trying to do that with the bike as well. So we've been biking more often. I don't always send her out on long rides, but I'm just telling her to get on her bike a lot, because I'm the same way. I grew up on the bike, and if I don't get on it for a long time, I just don't have a feel for it. And the more I do it, the better it is, and it comes back. I think that, we feel for running is the same thing. And but I think swimming is just the most pronounced, because most people really have rarely ever felt maybe a good feel for the water. But, certainly you feel it on the bike, if you ride more often and if you run more often, it's just that feeling. I just think that's so important in the sport, and that's the whole frequency piece, right? It's just,
it's a great, I've never thought about it that way, but it's such a great point. Like that's how I feel when cycling. If I'm cycling like 3 or 4 days a week, like even if I increase like 1 day a week, my spinning feels so much more effortless.
Yeah.
And efficient. And it's just because it's just about repetition. It's not rocket science. It's not, the perfect, placement of your intensity, distribution and where's my lactate. It's just about repetition. And repetition equals efficiency, right? Efficiency means less effort with same power or more power. That is gains. Right. And I think we underestimate and undermine that simplicity of progress when it comes to everything that we do.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting, man. Because I've been riding a lot more lately, and it's just things like taking corners, I just feel more comfortable there because I have that feeling on the bike again, or, it's just, or like with swimming, the more you do it, the more you're willing to go hard or something like that. It's a silly thing, but when you swim a lot, even just jumping in the water is easier. You're not as intimidated by the cool shock or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. All those things are just, the more you do something, the more comfortable you are with it, period.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more, man.
All right.
That's all we got for today. I don't know if we'll get to the rest of these. We don't need to do 3 swim stroke podcasts, but there's a lot of questions in there, which again, all the more reason to come to one of our camps, go up and see Mike. Cause I'm telling you, if you haven't been there, you can't find a better place to swim. It's freaking gorgeous. I'm going to make my way back up there too. Cause it's freaking amazing. So find a solution like that, get in front of somebody, come to one of our camps in Nashville or in Wisconsin. If you can't make any of those, another great option is the online swim school. There's a lot you can do online with the right instruction and the right workouts. So look out for that. And again, if you want to have questions about that or want more info, you can email Summer at operations@c26triathlon.com. And as always, if you need anything from me specifically, I'm available, Robbie at c26triathlon.com. Or if you need anything from Mike, he is also available at mike@c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. See ya.
See you, dude.